Who the hell can wait till morning? Talk now at latenightsportsradio.com.
Hey. Come on, let's go. Yeah! Let's go! All right.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the FantasyGreek.com. Starts and sits in 60 minutes. I'm Keith Grieve from 87sportsfans.com, and joining me, as always, is the Fantasy Greek himself, Jim Saranteas. Jim, say hello to the folks.
Hello.
This is our weekly mashup where we go matchup by matchup and give you all of the information that you were afraid to ask for to help win the week. It's week 7. You're running out of time, folks. We're at the halfway point in most leagues. So if you have any questions, any pressing lineup issues, we want you to call in anytime, 585-633-7487. That's 585-633-7487. So how did we do last? How you been since Monday night, Jim?
You know, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling strong, actually. I've had a very productive day. We're actually starting the show exactly on time, which is pretty amazing. Mm-hmm. So, Keith, you know, I don't know what to tell you. I'm just feeling good, feeling strong.
All right.
Hello to everybody out there in podcast World Wide Web land.
World Wide Web, the internets.
Internets, yes.
Hey,
can you say the word arse on the air instead of...
I believe so, because it's technically nobody would know what you're talking about.
Good. Then I've just done it, and we're covered.
All right. Here we go.
Let's do it. Let's go.
The New York Jets travel to the New England Patriots. The Jets sporting a not-so-flashy 1-5 record. The Patriots winners of their last two in impressive fashion after losing rather unceremoniously to the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City 41-14 3 weeks ago. The Jets have been lackluster and have gone every end of the spectrum, from Geno Smith telling Jets fans to go F themselves, to Geno Smith being replaced by Michael Vick. They're going to New England. I personally am skeptical still about whether the Patriots are back, but in New England, I know we agree on this game, there's just no way the Jets win.
You know what? I never thought that the Patriots were gone. I don't know why you and all the other naysayers out there have to even drudge up all that just bad mojo and ship it out to New England, but you did, and they just shoved it right back at you. Anyway, in Fantasyland, Keith, I know that's what you want me to talk about. Did you know that the Jets have given up 15 passing touchdowns since the start of the season, and that's the most in the NFL? Did you know that?
No, I did not. Thank you for telling me.
Yeah, that's just incredible. And what that means is you're starting people like Tom Brady, Julian Edelman, Robert Gronkowski, and you're going, oh, they should have pretty good games here. Likewise, I also like Brandon LaFell. 2 out of the last 3 weeks, he's putting up some decent yardage, and more importantly, he has scored 3 touchdowns in 2 out of those last 3 games. I think LaFell is a great play. If for the Jets, it's harder to find somebody that you're going to want to play. I mean, I suppose you could look at Chris Ivory as a flex play against a pretty decent Patriots rush defense. Jay Samaro, I think, is a sneaky play, is a high TE2 if you absolutely are desperate, need the help, because he's actually been coming on a little bit lately. But I just don't know that he's going to be one of those regular, usual suspects until he gets a string of good games together. Eric Decker, if you have him, this is a good week to bench him. He should be trapped on and stuck on Revis Island with a little Mr. Tattoo guy. And then in terms of running backs, for the Patriots, with Ridley out for the season, Shane Vereen makes for a low RB2 flex option because he's got a role in the passing game. Otherwise, the Jets are really tough against the position, but I'd still consider him because of his role in the passing game as an RB2.
I saw some Twitter
By the way, can people call in?
I gave the number.
Oh, did you? Oh, good.
Yeah, I did. 585-633-7487, because if Jim didn't catch it, maybe you all didn't catch it. 585-633-7487 to call in with your lineup questions. I heard or saw some Twitter smoke maybe last week about the emergence of Tim Wright with the Patriots, the tight end that they acquired from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in exchange for Logan Mankins.
Yes.
Do you see him eventually becoming the next Aaron Hernandez in this offense? Like a poor man's Aaron Hernandez?
I mean, you'd think he would eventually be the next Aaron Hernandez, but he isn't the next Aaron Hernandez, and the reason being is he's still not used, I think, more than 25% of the snaps. And until he is being used more than 50%, he's definitely a tough player to pick up and play unless you're absolutely desperate, and then you're going to sit there crossing your fingers hoping that he can score a touchdown. But he's not right now, and that's a shame because he's a very talented young man.
I mean, and when I say the next Aaron Hernandez, I mean, of course, without the murders, just in case you were wondering.
I'm glad you said that because I was confused.
I just want to make sure we're all on the same page here.
Yeah.
Okay, so next up, the Atlanta Falcons travel to the Baltimore Ravens. You, my friend, have been the Ravens' biggest champion, the biggest supporter, the biggest cheerleader. And if you are indeed wearing a cheerleading outfit, please keep it to yourself. The Atlanta Falcons have not been able to win on the road, and last week they were outplayed, for lack of a better term, by the Chicago Bears in their own home, in their own arena, at home in Atlanta. Cuddy went down to Georgia. But what really surprised me was that the Bears were without their top 4 linebackers and still managed to stymie the Falcons' rushing offense at home. And you really got to tip your cap to the Bears, but it also raises some question marks about what this Falcons team really is all about. And they're going to the Ravens, and although I am an ultimate skeptical, I have to agree with you that Baltimore wins this game.
Here's why I've been just such a big Ravens fan. They allow an average of 16.2 points per game, which ranks them number 3 in the league. They give up 90.7 yards per game. That ranks them number 7 in the league. Their one weakness is their pass defense. They're giving up a boatload of yards, somewhere around 300, 360 yards per game. But here's where they get the job done is their red zone defense. They don't let people score. They've only allowed 8 touchdowns on the entire season. And if you want to talk about something that's even more scary, Falcons roll into Baltimore, where on average, the Ravens give up just 13 points per game. So that's why I'm a big Ravens fan. And this is a game where you look at the Falcons and you say, yeah, Matt Ryan, he can be started, but he's just not a great start after everything I've just said. And you might want to consider your second option this week. It's a better play to play Julio Jones or Roddy White because of all those yards that they give up, even though they may not see the end zone. So that's how I approach everything from the Falcons' viewpoint. From the Ravens' viewpoint, it's a lot different. Joe Flacco is definitely a bye week option this week. He had that tremendous game last week. He's obviously not going to do it for a second week in a row, but he still makes for a solid play if you need the help. Steve Smith, Torrey Smith, you get them into the game. They're going up against the Falcons defense, giving up the 13 most fantasy points allowed, which is pretty good awesome. It's almost 24 total points in standard scoring leagues. And then Falcons, number 1, most fantasy points allowed to running backs. That means Justin Forsett should blow it up. 28.85 fantasy points allowed, and I even like the Ravens defense at home.
Is Lorenzo Taliaferro off the radar now?
Yeah, he definitely has dropped. I don't know that if you can hold on to him, there's no downside to that because I think the tail of the tape as to that second running back position is certainly not over. Plus, it's only week 7. We've still got several weeks ahead of us where somebody can get hurt. So unless you're desperate for somebody else, just hang on to him. Let's see how this plays out.
All right, the Tennessee Titans travel to the Washington Redskins. The Titans are such a mess that I picked the Jaguars to beat them last week, and you all chuckled and threw eggs at me. But
we do that anyways. I mean.
But it almost happened. It almost happened if the Jaguars weren't quite so Jaguar-y. But the Redskins, in the Redskins locker room, I bet you can hear Tom Petty in the background. Free fallin'. They lose to the Eagles by 3. They get destroyed by the Giants, 45-14. They lose to the Seahawks by a mere 10 points, and they lose to the Cardinals as well by the same margin. So the question is this the week they get off the schneid with Kirk Cousins under center? Well, the Titans are as plumb for the picking as any. And again, another game we agree on. The Washington Redskins win this.
Can you believe that the Redskins give up the most fantasy points allowed to opposing quarterbacks, and I still wouldn't recommend Jake Locker or Charlie Whitehurst?
That's kind of bad.
Isn't that bad? That's awful. So, in this game, if you got some Titans, the Titans that I like this week are going to be Kendall Wright and Justin Hunter as wide receiver 3s. Delaney Walker's a TE1 going up against the number 10, or the team that gives up the 10th most fantasy points to the position, somewhere right around 100 yards. For the Redskins, the Titans, they're top 15 or better in most fantasy points allowed for every position in fantasy football. So you can start Kirk Cousins, Pierre Garçon, Deshaun Jackson, Jordan Reed. And I even like the Redskins defense as a low-end option this week because the Titans, they just like to give away the football. So I like the Redskins at home, which you've already mentioned, but hey, I might as well mention it again. Redskins win.
You just don't like you just can't let me just have my moment and just
no,
say things.
No, it's for the listeners because by repetition, people remember.
6 times actually is the word is the amount of times you have to say something before somebody actually listens to you. 6 times.
Oh, you say that because you have children. That's why.
6. No, that's adults. I found that out through the day job, management, leadership. 6 times. Okay.
6 times.
The Seattle Seahawks travel to the St. Louis Rams. The Seahawks losers at home to the Dallas Cowboys. No one saw that coming. But the Seahawks have looked quite human. The only thing that matters, though, is that the Rams are still the Rams. And while they got out to an early lead against San Francisco last week, San Francisco is one of those late starting teams sometimes. And they absolutely were disheveled in the second half, losing eventually 31-17. So which Seattle team is this? I don't really think it matters. Seattle's defense is more than enough to corral the Rams. And we both, again, are picking the Seahawks.
The Rams, they're a team with a stout run defense in terms of the number of TDs that they give up. They've only given up 4 on the season. That's pretty damn good. But in terms of yards, they're just about 140 yards per game. That is crazy. I guess they have a better pass defense with 9 pass TDs allowed. But you know what? At the end of the day, this is a Rams team who's they're kind of lost. The defense started off well. It's not doing so well. Part of that to blame is injuries. Their offense seemed to start well. It's not doing so well, and you can blame that on injuries as well. You start your Seahawks playmakers this week. You start Russell Wilson. You start Marshawn Lynch. You start Percy Harvin, and you expect really good gains for them since in terms of fantasy points allowed, it's number 10 or better in terms of most fantasy points allowed by the Rams. And in terms of the defense, you definitely start the defense because the Rams have given up a league-leading 5 defensive touchdowns. Do you believe that? I scratched my head when I saw that.
Yeah, it's not something that you would think of like, oh yeah, that's right, that makes sense because you hear it and you're kind of like, huh?
Yeah, and then, and I know the Seahawks have struggled on the road a little bit, but none of that changes my mind about how you then look at the Rams. Zach Stacy, low-end RB2 option. I think you keep rolling with Brian Quick as a wide receiver 3 regardless of what's going on. And you look at Jared Cook as a low-end TE1 because the Seahawks give a bunch of points, like 3rd most fantasy points to the position to date.
All right, the Cleveland Browns travel to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I am getting Jaguars itchy, and no, that's not something that needs a shot. I want to pick the Jaguars in one of these games. The problem is that the Browns have played pretty good football, led by the amount that just really almost, I hate to use the word like flawless because I'm sure you could easily find flaws, but near flawless execution on the offensive line. Now we'll see what happens with center Alex Mack being lost. But the Jaguars are chomping at the bit, and it would not surprise me if this is a game that they steal. I just have that feeling in my gut. But my head knows that my guts have crap for brains. So, and we both agree on this one. Cleveland wins this one in Jacksonville.
Yeah. The reason why you want to see the Jaguars win a game, you want to be the person that says, oh, they're going to win this weekend. They're going to win this weekend, and then they win. And you look like a rock star superhero in Jaguar fans' eyes in Jaguars Nation, but that's not going to happen because the Jaguars are top 11 or worse in fantasy points allowed to all the major positions. And what that boils down to is Brandon Tate, Jordan Cameron, Browns defense, all must starts this